5 a.m., Mexico City. More than 100 federal police officers board a specially outfitted 727 for a top-secret mission. Security is so tight that we're not told where we're going or who they're after. All we know is that they're hunting one of the country's top drug bosses, and they'll take him dead or alive. We mount cameras on the commandos' helmets during the flight. After an hour, we land somewhere in the mountains, where a source finally gives us the background. The target of this operation is one of the alleged leaders of the notorious cartel La Familia here in the state of Michoacan. He is allegedly responsible for the capture, torture, and killing of about a dozen federal police officers. His name is Servando Gomez Martinez, but he's known simply as La Tuta. And he heads a powerful cartel notorious for public displays of brutality. They're known as Mexico's premier traffickers of crystal meth, nearly all of it to the United States. It was the growing strength and savagery of groups like La Familia that compelled Felipe Calderon to declare war on the drug cartels when he was sworn in as president in December 2006. Former Mexican Foreign Minister Jorge Castañeda says Mexicans liked the idea.
They thought it would be easy, it would be quick, and it was a way of showing the flag, showing muscle.
And the U.S., knowing Mexico was fighting to keep drugs off America's streets, pitched in. Congress made a $1.4 billion pledge to Mexico's war chest. But Mexico has been fighting an uphill battle, made worse by a river of weapons flowing into the country, which has meant the cartels are often better armed than the government that's fighting them. And America's hunger for illegal drugs keeps the cartels rich, which means they can also afford to pay Mexican police more than the government can. That's a problem, a big problem. While many of these men are risking their lives to pursue the cartel boss, there's a real possibility that one of them secretly works for the criminal kingpin. Still, we follow along. From the airfield in Michoacan, the police board Blackhawks to fly to the town where La Tuta, the drug boss, had been only that morning. But where was he? They managed to arrest an alleged lesser member of the cartel. But La Tuta himself slipped away.
They couldn't find him.
Still haven't.
Surprise you?
No, because there's tip-offs. They have a lot of sources everywhere in governments, and so they're very well protected.
And this appears to be the way in Mexico, a country which seems to have the boot of the cartels on its throat, where more than 36,000 people have been killed in drug-related violence. Last year alone, it was 15,000. Entire towns have emptied out, innocent inhabitants fleeing the mayhem. But nowhere has the bloodletting been more fierce than this place, dubbed Murder City, Ciudad Juarez. Just across the border from one of America's safest cities, El Paso, Texas, Juarez, with a population of 1.5 million, has long been notorious for murder. Among the dead, 2 journalists, both executed in mafia-style hits. They worked for El Diario, the daily paper where Sandra Rodriguez covers the justice system.
When you first became a reporter here in Juarez, did you ever imagine you'd see 2 of your colleagues killed, gunned down?
I never, not even in my wildest dreams, thought that it was going to be so close, so horrible, so massive, like this. Never.
They never found out who killed those reporters or why. Now, the violence has reached an epic scale. 2 big cartels are waging an all-out war for control of the Juarez drug market, using thousands of young gang members as their foot soldiers. In this city, an average of 11 people were murdered every day last year. And less than 3% of those murders are ever prosecuted. Less than 3%, one of the lowest rates in the world. What does that say about the judicial system?
It's a total failure
A total failure.
in my book.
Rodriguez saw too many times how the state's failure to prosecute crime feeds on itself, and is now writing a book about this climate of impunity.
Impunity is the when the state is unable to prosecute and punish crime.
And what does that result in?
The result, as you may imagine, if you not punish crime, the message that you are sending is that you can
Get away with murder.
and commit any crime, exactly.
But to really appreciate just how far this impunity goes and how the drug war and violence are affecting Mexico, you need to know what happens to those who have nothing to do with the gangs and cartels, people who get caught in the middle. You need to know what happens to the innocent, like this young resident of Juarez named Ruby Freire Escobedo.
She was a beautiful girl. She was a teenager.
Her brother Juan was 14 years older than Ruby, and growing up he took care of his youngest sister, while their single mother Maricela worked as a nurse. Ruby's sunny disposition brought the family together, and they doted on her.
Spoiled.
Spoiled. She was spoiled.
How close were the two of you?
She was real close to me. Actually, when she ever had a problem, she always run to me.
Though she was just 16, Ruby already had a baby daughter with her boyfriend, Sergio Barraza. Ruby's family, especially their mother, Maricela, didn't approve of Sergio. He was 8 years older than Ruby. He was reputed to be a member of a street gang, and he'd had a few run-ins with the law over his explosive temper. So the couple lived on their own, and Maricela tried to give them space, and it went on like that until one day in 2008. Her brother Juan had been alarmed that he hadn't heard from Ruby for weeks.
One day I got to the apartment and there was nobody there.
And what did you think had happened?
It was a note in there that she was having a lot of problems with her boyfriend, and they were going to try to live in another place. That was the last thing that I heard at that point.
Ruby had disappeared, so they did what any frightened family would do. They went to police, and it was then they got their first taste of a justice system that seemed to want nothing to do with their problem.
They said that they weren't able to do nothing about that.
Why?
Because they needed to wait, I don't know if 3 months or...
3 months?
I don't remember the exact time, but they said that we need to wait.
So the family waited.
But Christmas came and there was no call. Then New Year's Eve and there was no call.
It was then that Juan realized Ruby may not have merely left town, that something much worse might have happened.